No government has been able to do for people what people have been able to do for themselves when they have that opportunity.
The American society as a whole can never achieve the outer reaches of its potential so long as it tolerates the inner cities of despair. The American dream is not to make everyone level with everyone else, but to create the opportunity for all people to reach as high as their God-given potential allows.
Jack was a star from the day he walked into the house.
I've always thought that it does go back to Jack working as a football player and a quarterback who had to inspire his teammates. And there was a sense of inspiring us.
There are no limits to our future as long as we don't limit our people.
I'm Mort Kondracki, and I'm honored to serve as the first Jack Kemp Scholar at the Library of Congress. I've also spent a good part of the last 2 years working with Brian Williams developing the Kemp Oral History Project. In all, we've explored Jack Kemp's life and career through the eyes of nearly 100 of his contemporaries. What we've seen is the portrait of an American idealist, a leader with a passion for the competition of ideas and an absolute commitment to the power of the American spirit. We've also learned a few things about the qualities of leadership in triumph and in adversity.
He used to love to play tennis. 25-year-old Ed Brady got to play tennis with him. He's 52 years old. I should be able to beat him 25 years old. And we're playing tennis, and he is just sweating his tail off. And I really don't know if I'm supposed to try and beat him or not beat him. Am I going to get back on the plane with him or not? Well, I hit a drop shot, and he goes flying across the court and takes a dive, skins his forehead, his shoulder. He makes a shot, and he wins the point. And I turn around, I'm thinking, what the hell's going on here?
Jack had 2 careers, and in both of them, he was a competitor. And he had to convince you what he had come to believe, what he knew was right. And he not only had to convince you, he had to convince everybody. And if you went to some of his speeches, you knew what he meant, because 55 minutes in, he still hadn't convinced that guy in the 3rd row, still looked a little skeptical, and by God, he was going to convince everybody.
He would not leave the rope line, and I would try and pull him all the time and say, we've got to go, and we'd be in danger of, by the 4th event of the day, in danger of not being able to hold our crowd because we would run so late. But he loved people, and he would say, if they went to all the effort to come out and see me and they want to shake my hand, I should shake their hands.
Jack's public career began in professional football, carried him to the U.S. House of Representatives, through presidential primaries, and eventually to the Republican ticket as Bob Dole's vice presidential running mate in 1996. As we spoke with the men and women who surrounded him during those years, we saw common themes develop. Among them, Jack's steadfast commitment to the ideas he believed in.
He did not like the 1986 tax reform package. He thought it was a tax increase. And I kind of agreed with him and made it known that as a whip, I was not going to support it. And I wound up in the Oval Office with President Reagan saying, well, Trent, if I can't count on the whip, who can I count on? And I was thinking at the time, I'll never forget it, Jack Kemp got me into this.
And the fact is that Kemp Roth was in my view, was not only something that was important for Republicans, and he persuaded the House Republicans, but more important, he persuaded Ronald Reagan. And that's what makes him such an historic figure, in my view, because as a result of supply-side economics, we restored our economy, we had a booming economy, and Gorbachev felt he couldn't compete with us economically, and that was obviously Kemp Roth. And he felt he couldn't compete with us militarily because they were in such dire straits economically. I believe that it was Reaganomics, and based on what Jack Kemp did, that was key to that victory. Jack Kemp was instrumental in both our economic recovery and in also winning the Cold War.
When you talk about Jack Kemp, one word comes to mind: the cause. Wherever he is, he'll fight for that cause. He'll work for that cause.
It was easy to believe in the quote-unquote cause that he fought for, because almost always it was the right thing to do. And he really did approach life in that way. even when he didn't have the political support to do it. You know, he would, if a particular special interest group said, well, we just can't fight this fight, we've used all our chits, he would say, I'm going to keep going. And he did that time and time and again.
History's most effective leaders, including Jack's heroes Abraham Lincoln and Winston Churchill, offered a vision of a better future. For Jack, that meant challenging what was wrong with the other side's ideas and extolling what was right and uplifting about his own.
The purpose of a truly great party is to provide superior ideas, principled leadership, and a compelling cause.
Jack did not want to win negatively. He was allergic to doing that. He wanted to win positively.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jack Kemp.
And you know, you would try to goad him to attack, and he just it just wasn't him.
No, there are always the people afterwards looking for scapegoats. And I had people call me to say what a terrible job Jack did in the debate, that he didn't defend me enough. But it wasn't any personal reason, he just, that was his style.
This is something that I cannot get my head around.
Here he is, professional quarterback, football player, in the most violent sport in America. And he's a competitor. He likes to win. And yet, when it comes to hitting somebody, he won't hit. How do you explain that?
He was a quarterback.
They don't hit anybody.
In fact, there were many leadership lessons that Jack learned in the NFL that set him apart as a political leader. Jack was a happy warrior who inspired people to follow him.
He was still a person who brought people into politics. There are people who are Republicans because Jack Kemp was a politician.
I'll tell you, in 1961, we were going to Dallas to play with the Chargers, and we weren't allowed in the Hilton in Dallas, and the owner of the team owned the hotel. So they said, okay, the white guys can stay at the Hilton, but the black guys, you have to go to Grand Prairie. And Jack Kemp went to Sid Gilman and said, this is not acceptable. Either we stay as a team or we don't play. And Jack Kemp was the guy that actually did it. We all ended up in the crappiest hotel in Grand Prairie, Texas, because of Kemp.
The Kemp Oral History Project is about more than looking back over one man's inspiring career. It's about showing how pragmatic leadership principles can continue to be part of the American experiment.
Over the years, we did a lot of events together on tax reform. And it kind of gave a very nice picture to have these two guys up there, one a football player, one a basketball player, one a Democrat, one a Republican. And they were both concerned about the same thing, and if there were any disagreements, which there were rarely in this context, they were openly expressed, but they were both headed in the right direction. People would look at this and they'd say, you know, that's the way it should be.
Kemp Republicans exist, and they are people that believe we got to have something to say to everybody. That we can't be a 51% majority nation, that the Republican Party has to be able to have a message for African Americans and Hispanics and union members and inner city folks. And maybe we don't get it all right, maybe not every policy is perfect, but that if we are not constantly striving to have a message to communicate to everybody, we're failing.
He wasn't constantly rerunning last week's game. That just wasn't him. For public policy, he was all forward-looking, and it was always about the next victory. It was never about last month's defeat. Never.
He said to me, elections are about tomorrow, not yesterday. Not what have you done, it's what you're going to do for me.
We're going to ask for the support of every single American. Our appeal of boundless opportunity crosses every barrier of geography, race, and belief in America. We're not going to leave anybody out of this opportunity society. We may not get every vote, but we'll speak to every heart. In word and action, we will represent the entire American family. That's what we must be all about.